I'll give a little intro of myself here. I'm a licensed counselor here in the state of Kansas. I did not get into therapy because I was like this undergrad that was majoring in psych and all of this. Actually, the only undergrad course I took was the worst class I ever took. That psychology class was terrible, and I swore I would never go into it again. But after school, as I was working, someone introduced me to Neurofeedback. They hooked me up, and I immediately melted. Like, my brain got quiet, my muscles were relaxed, I sunk in the chair, and the individual looks at me and goes, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "I feel fantastic." "Are you done?" "I want more." And my first impression was really, why wasn't I doing this when I was playing ball? Why wasn't I doing this for academics? Why wasn't I doing it for all these reasons? I could immediately feel the benefit of quiet mind. And that allowed me to be more present. So I come at this from a sports perspective more than a therapist perspective. Now, I'm fully trained, went to grad school, have my license, these types of things, but I was an athlete first. Baseball was my number one sport. I played a little bit of college ball. If there was a ball, I played it. Basketball, football, whatever. Still to this day. So I immediately saw the benefits of how it could help my sport. And as I've gotten into it and I work clinically, I've been working clinically for the past 12 years. I've seen it help loads of mental health issues. I work with a lot of athletes, a lot of student athletes, and what happens on the field tends to replicate itself off the field in many ways. If I'm having a hard time remembering the calls, the play calls, if I'm having a hard time remembering where I go in a certain situation, if I'm having a hard time focusing or the motor coordination piece, well, a lot of times there's those types of elements off of the field, outside of that. And poor attention to coach, not being able to listen to the play call and learn that, well, maybe that transfers to my science class and the long lectures that occur there. So as I have gotten into this, I've seen this is a whole life element. This is mind body. This is helping us tremendously. I will double back to some of that information, but really wanted to focus in what we were looking at today. Big three things to take away from it that's going to help not only peak performance and mental performance, but it's also going to assist quality of life. It's going to assist achieving that zone, the flow state, which we all want to get into. Whether we're building something in our garage or we're at work knocking out a spreadsheet or whatever the case is, we want to be able to access that flow state where we're not constantly pulling our mind back to what we are doing. We're just doing and utilizing all that training. So one of the biggest crux is going to be the emotional regulation piece, because we can train our bodies, we can train in whatever field we are in. And the one thing that is going to throw a wrench into that is between the ears. I'll come from the baseball perspective with this. You step up to the plate, you've taken tens of thousands of swings. You've done this over the course of 10, 15 years. You step up to the plate and go, "Oh, I hope I don't fill in the blank." That's a defeatist attitude. That's not going up to the plate with confidence. That's hoping I don't do something, not "I dare you to bring this to me." So getting into some of the big three, just kind of breaking it down, the emotional regulation piece. Response inhibition, one of the biggest pieces, where I ground out in a major situation in the first inning. I miss a clutch free throw. I miss a pass that's wide open, whatever that is. What's the instant reaction? The gut reaction is, I'm angry, I'm frustrated with myself. And that can spill over to the next play, the next drive, the next shot. The best athletes have short memories. They rely on their physical abilities. They rely on the tens of thousands of hours that they have put into training. And they're able to forget an instance of failure. Look, if we're breaking it down, baseball, you fail 70% of the time. What do we call you? A Hall of Famer. Basketball, you fail 50% of the time. You're Steph Curry. You're one of the best shooters. We have to learn to fail and continue to push ourselves out there and not start to doubt ourselves, because when we doubt ourselves, our muscles tighten, tension increases, thoughts flow, and these are all barriers. Quick twitch muscles can't react when we have tension. So the response inhibition, being able to keep our mind in the game, is tremendous. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. I think we can see how a lot of these correlate, but stress and performance anxiety, one of the biggest issues. This is why people choke in high leverage situations. Just because you got out in that situation doesn't mean you had that stress and performance anxiety, but it certainly leads to it. There's a reason why nowadays here in Kansas City, bases loaded, we want to see Bobby Witt come up. There's a reason why Patrick Mahomes might not have the greatest stats all year, but give him 13 seconds and he's going to shove it down your throat. There's a reason why these things, Bills fan, my bad. Lucky. Okay, that one's luck. That one's just luck. Yeah. Sorry. Performance under pressure, moving along. So performance under pressure, improving decision making, these types of things come from the quiet mind. Again, we know what to do in these situations. Our bodies have been trained. The one thing that's going to hold us back from that quick decision making is having too much going on in our head. An analogy for this is trying to drive down a crowded freeway. If you have tons of cars on this freeway, traffic is there, we're not going to necessarily be the most efficient if we're in a hurry. We have to kind of take an alternative route. We have to bob and weave around some of these vehicles. Well, that's going to create slower processing with a lot of fast wave activity, high traffic in the brain. How are we going to immediately react when we have, back to baseball, 0.4 of a second to decide swing, take, or duck? If I swing, where? If I duck, which direction? Well, now I've got a crowded freeway and I'm not processing this information as quickly. I'm slower to respond. But if we're able to calm that brain down, it's like clearing out that traffic. We've got this clear line to drive down that freeway. And another analogy building off that one is really, well, if we're spinning our wheels in our head, it's super inefficient. And this is applicable to academics, overall life, and performance. As we are driving down that freeway in second gear, we're revving, we're inefficient, we're burning energy. As we train and we're able to calm that brain down, it's like shifting into fifth. We're smooth, we're efficient. We're using all of our energy in a very efficient and directed manner. Now, with this, we tend to see improvements in confidence. I'm not second guessing myself on the field, but I'm also maybe in a social situation. I'm not second guessing, oh, everyone's looking at me, what's going on? I must be doing this, I must be doing that. It's just, I'm present, I'm here. Take it or leave it, kind of element. Tend to see improved results because all that training that we have done feeds into what we're working at, the goal we are working toward. And overall, effective management of emotions, which I see a lot of, we'll say, individuals that are going through puberty, that are under 25 years of age, where we're still developing our prefrontal cortex, we're still developing what is the right response in this situation or not, and to have some of this ability to train the brain, to direct it, can help in all these situations. So looking at quality of life, if we are constantly thinking about the future, that's anxiety. We're constantly worried about what's next, what's next, what's next. If we're constantly living in the past, that tends to correlate with depression. I wish I would have. Why didn't I? Living is now. Living is being present. And that's also how we get the best performance, by being here now. But it's how we enjoy our families. It's how we enjoy a vacation. Maybe even this presentation. But it's being present and it's being now. Brain resiliency is a huge piece. Nearly every athlete that has played at a high level has at least had their bell rung, whether there is a diagnosed concussion or not. When you play hard and you work hard, there is the possibility of brain injury. Well, neurofeedback on the preventative end, I'll use the example of someone working out. If they do a lot of bicep curls and they're super strong, and you go up and you punch them in the arm, they're gonna laugh it off and brush it off. Somebody that's never picked up a weight and is super weak, you punch them in the arm, ow, it hurts. There's more resiliency within the brain as we exercise it with neurofeedback. And neurofeedback is bringing oxygenation, blood flow, as well as changing the electrical activity through learning. Now, none of this is invasive. It's completely non-invasive. It is teaching the brain to regulate itself, not sending any information to the brain, no electricity to the brain. It is simply observing and utilizing what we would call operant conditioning in psychology, which is the presence and absence of rewards, to teach the brain to shift in a direction. Honestly, it works in many of the same ways that our cell phones do. Why we constantly look, dopamine rush. Hey, I got a notification. Similar, I got a reward on this screen. My brain wants more. My brain is learning how to get more reward and shifting in that direction. And I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute when I hook up probably Corey, and you can see his brain waves, and I show you how you meet some of that criteria. Again, when we look at concussion recovery, I don't want to skim over that. There's very little that we can do, that we can access to recover from concussion. Largely it is get some rest. The science behind it, doctors are changing their opinions a little bit. It's not extensive rest over the course of weeks and weeks. You need to have an initial rest period. And then it gets into, after that rest period, let's start getting the brain back online. Let's start doing some exercises. Let's start pushing it in the right direction. Neurofeedback is it's a brain gym. It's a great resource for this. We start exercising the brain. We start giving it information. We start allowing it to get back online. Plus, not to get too geeky on the science of concussion, but the biggest issue with long-term concussion symptoms is we get extra tau proteins that are locked in the brain when there's an injury in that area. So what happens is we kind of like disconnect these neuronal connections that we have. And a lot of times as it starts to reconnect, it doesn't necessarily connect the same way. Neurofeedback can train it to get that connection back. And while you're exercising it, what happens? We get blood flow, we oxygenate, and that area of the brain can begin to come back online. It's not just this dead part that's not getting any of that blood flow or oxygenation. So I'm happy to answer more questions about that, but I don't want to bog you down with all the concussion stuff. And overall mental health, that's the piece. I've been working clinically for 12 years, 12 and a half now. And a majority of the people I work with come in for ADHD, anxiety, depression, executive function issues. I don't know what the issue is, but I'm just not happy. These types of things. OCD. I mean, the list goes on. All of these medically, psychiatrically diagnosed issues. The symptoms can be addressed through neurofeedback. And to be able to blend that piece for overall quality of life with performance, the results can be tremendous. And that's not just athletic performance, that's performance in any area. I mean, we all like to perform well on the job, we all like to perform well on the field, in the classroom, and those types of things. So the ultimate goal, I think, for most athletes is to reach the zone or flow state. And if you're not familiar with it, that is, I am doing it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not focused. I'm not the biggest dude in the world, but every home run I ever hit was by accident. Every home run I hit was, I'm not thinking. I'm looking to just do what I do. Go to right center field. Oh, inside, my muscles react, and it's gone. And every time I hit a home run, I rounded the bases. I'd get to second base and be like, how the heck did that happen? I can't believe I just hit that. Because I wasn't trying. I had a quiet mind. Quick reactions. Those quick twitch muscles that I took tens of thousands of swings for paid off. I didn't tense up. I reacted. I was present. Visualization. Coaches do this all the time. And I don't know if all of them know what they are doing, but they say, see yourself do fill in the blank. That visualization creates possibility in our mind. If we can see ourselves, even in our mind's eye, doing something, the possibility of us doing it just increased exponentially. We now have seen ourselves do that. It is possible. We believe it. And that's the subconscious effect on our performance. If we can't see ourselves doing it, and we're going, I hope I don't, but what about? Look, I was a catcher. I was too smart for my own good. I thought I knew what they should throw me, so I would think about it. I needed to react. You look at, that increases cognitive processing speed. We can react quicker in those 0.4 of a second or whatever. Reaction time increases, and ultimately you become immersed in the activity. You are in that activity. You're not hoping to achieve it. This is the difference between the guy that shoots lights out in practice and can't make one during the game. This is the batting practice hitter that can't do it in the game. This is the quarterback that has a great arm, but always misses his receivers. And this transfers to, I work with a lot of other types of performers, actors, singers. This is getting out of your own way. So all that practice pays off. So ultimately, it's going to reduce self-consciousness and help us get to optimal performance. So just a couple little pieces about neurofeedback. I love this quote, neurons that fire together, wire together. So there's something called regulation of the brain. And as most brains are dysregulated because we expect our brains to just fall into place. We expect them to learn what we're doing without us teaching it what to do. But neurofeedback can actually show it exactly how to do something. So when you see this dysregulated brain and things are firing all over the place, neurofeedback can help synchronize all of this, which helps with that flow state, which helps with all these other things that I mentioned before. And they tend to fire together. And I'll come back to this real quick, but if I skip forward a couple slides, we have these different areas of the brain. These are 4 lobes of the brain. And we need these 4 lobes to fire together for optimal performance. So if we are getting these lobes firing together, an example being, I'm gonna go straight to baseball again, but I have my frontal lobe activated. So I am focused on what I'm doing. A quiet mind, I'm watching, I'm attending to what it is. I take information from the sensory environment, my eyes take it in, right? I'm looking at the baseball. One of the most inefficient parts of the brain is we see here, our eyes are up here, but we process visual information back here in the occipital lobe. That's super inefficient. If you look at this, like brain and the sense of smell, it's right here. Auditory. And that part of the brain, we hear here, we process it temporally. Why is this spread out? Well, if you go back to our ancestors, I see a bear. The brain needs to light up, so I have all these different areas of the brain that will get me out of there. I process the information, yes. All that information coming through here, I need to sense it. This motor activity on this motor strip needs to get my body moving. I need to listen for the bear. I need to get out of harm's way. This is survival. but we utilize it in a beneficial way for our sport and other areas of life. So to continue with this before I head back, occipital lobe, we train that can increase our visual and perception. That can increase how we process that information. Information in the environment to our eyes, that's an eye issue. But going from the eye to the brain, that's a brain piece. We can speed that up and increase reaction time. You look at the parietal lobe. This is sensory information that we're taking in. This is what I hear, what I see, processing speed, how quick I process what I just saw. Temporally, this is a lot of the emotional stuff. We can access that emotional brain through these temporal lobes. It's not just hearing. We get to that limbic system in here. As we can temper down that limbic system, calm it, now all of a sudden, I'm not reactive at the plate. I'm not sitting there going, I hope I don't. Or at the free throw line, I hope I don't. It's, I am here, let me do what I've done a million times. And again, that frontal and prefrontal area, that's the executive in our brain. That's the CEO. The CEO that's saying, attend to this, do it in this order. That's where all of this coming together and firing creates this flow state, that zone, that ability to just fully engage and get the results we want. So if I step back just a minute, just breaking down, neurofeedback is brain-based biofeedback. Biofeedback is all over the place nowadays. We all have, Garmin watches, Apple watches, these types of things that are giving us feedback on our body. This is brain-based. It's not the heart rate, it's not the sleep monitor, this and that, but what is my brain doing? And feeding that information back to the brain so the brain can make its corrections. So bio really is life and living. Feedback is giving that feedback through a closed loop system where an individual will be hooked up. I will be looking at their brainwave activity. They will be watching a game. It is a closed loop with this feedback. And ultimately, the way I work with this is that feedback goes beyond. The feedback is between me and the individual I'm working with as well. They tell me what they need. They tell me what symptoms they want to reduce. They tell me where they have hiccups. And it is my job to know how to train that brain to alleviate those issues. And ultimately, like when you give the brain information about itself, almost instantly it has the enormous capacity for change. It has the ability to re-regulate itself. This part still blows my mind. I can take one of these cords, put it on the surface of the brain. I can shift it from here to here, anywhere. Ultimately, any of these spots on the brain. And that area of the brain is immediately going to start adjusting. Our brain has an enormous capacity for change and an enormous capacity for recognition of how to gain rewards. We feed off that. We use it for good instead of bad. It's the brain is able to pick up so much more than we recognize. And I was asked this the other day, so I'm gonna just bring it up at this moment. I was asked, how much of our brain do we actually use? Because there's that myth, we use 10% of our brains, right? We use the entire brain. We do not use 10%. However, we might only get about 10% of its potential. We're using the whole brain though. The entire brain is constantly in use. But as we're able to teach the brain how to optimize itself, we're able to get more out of that 10% that the average human is using. So coming back to this, we've identified here at Gray Wolf some major components of the complete athlete. So first, perception, sight, and vision. I kind of talked about how that occipital lobe can help with what we are seeing, what we are doing. Motor, flexibility, movement, efficiency and strength, control. Well, if you see this black line here, It comes straight down, basically from the ear to the top of the head. This is our motor strip. If there's an ankle injury and we're trying to get it back up to speed, we can train a spot in the brain that controls the motor coordination for that limb, for the ankle. Arm. We just had arm conditioning happening in here. Well, what if we are trying to change our throw? What if we're trying to adjust things? Well, we need muscle memory, absolutely. So we need that physical repetition. But we also can benefit that and expedite the whole process by going to the spot in the motor strip that the brain controls that limb. So we're dealing with electrical activity because that is instantaneous in our body, right? We react quickly. To allow that area of the brain to send that signal more efficiently and to have it regulated can really create more change quicker. When I look at the muscle memory, because we're dealing with muscle memory of the brain, that's why there's repetition in training. I like to give the example of when I was a baseball player. I went down to a baseball school and I was a catcher, so I kind of threw from here. And they said, we want to change your throw like this. Save your shoulder, save your elbow. First 3 days, I was 14. All I did was complain. Why'd I come down here? This was a waste of time. I don't want to do this. By day 4, I stopped complaining. By day 5, I was doing it without thinking about it. 25 years later, you toss me a ball, my arm goes here. This is what we're doing with neurofeedback. We're giving it that information. Today it's work. Tomorrow it's still there. We look at mind. We want focus and confidence. Again, focus. Lack of emotional reactivity, confidence. We look at sensory information and processing. I talked about this parietal lobe, really integrating sensory information. I've worked with a lot of individuals that have sensory sensitivities, maybe on the spectrum, visual sensitivity, auditory sensitivity, tactile sensitivity. And by training this area, you can actually desensitize some of that, where it's easier to be in those situations. Light doesn't arouse me that same way. Hearing all this noise or seeing a crowd isn't making me too overwhelmed and flooded with thought. It's allowing me to stay in that flow state. Information processing, well, I mean, that's applicable in any area. We want to process information quickly. Perception and motion. I kind of went through that a little with the motor strip and everything, and how we move, how we perceive our environment, not through overwhelm, but through actually seeing what is before us. So here's a very brief and incomplete list of professional athletes, elite athletes that have talked about their use of neurofeedback and how it has benefited them tremendously. It's a picture of Kirk Cousins. If any of you have seen Quarterback, the first one that had Patrick Mahomes on it. In the 4th episode, Kirk Cousins goes to his car, sits down, pulls out this mind lift device. It's a remote neurofeedback, and pulls out his phone. And I'm sitting there watching it with my wife and almost fell off the couch. I'm like, I can't believe they're showing this on Netflix. The next day, my phone, my emails, and everything start blowing up with people. They're like, is this what you do? Did you see Quarterback? It is. Kirk Cousins starts talking about how he's been doing neurofeedback for 10 years. Now, I think most would look at Kirk Cousins. Yes, he's skilled. He has talent. He has abilities. But it doesn't jump off the paper like some quarterbacks. He has made... He's no Josh Allen. Okay, we'll give you that one. But he's getting the most out of his abilities. He's absolutely getting the most out of his abilities by training his mind and training his body and maxing it out. But you see, there's lists. Golfers, figure skaters, NBA players, beach volleyball, baseball, football. The Italian World Cup soccer team in 2006 had a brain room, and they would all go in and do neurofeedback and compete against each other in this brain room. And the coaching staff actually credited neurofeedback with their World Cup victory. They got the most out of the talent they had. They were not expected to win that year. You also see that the Canadian Olympic ski team credited neurofeedback as playing an important role in training and success. There are a lot of elite athletes that are utilizing this. One reason why this list isn't a lot longer is a lot of athletes don't really want to share what their secret sauce is. If this gives me an advantage, why would I tell my opponent? Now, there's another breed of athlete that wants to go out like Kirk Cousins. This is going to help everyone. He's just got a good heart, I think, ultimately is what it is. But they want to share that with other people for quality of life. They've seen how it benefited them. Kirk Cousins was talking about not being as intense or as angry or as whatever on and off the field, and being able to keep a cool, calm, collected demeanor. So there's a lot doing it out there. I know when I first started, I did my first training and I asked the person doing the training, I said, why are no athletes doing this? And they started laughing at me. They said, oh, they are. They're just not talking about it. And I was like, well, who? They go, well, we're not going to talk about it, but a certain golfer who everyone has heard of has already been doing it. This was back in 2007. And there's a lot more out there that are doing it than we recognize. So before we get into questions, what I was going to do is I was going to hook Corey up real quick, and you guys can just see what brainwaves look like on here, and I can give you a little bit of insight. And I will let you know what I am doing. It is, you can just sit right there. You're good. So I start off with like a cleaning agent. It just cleans the oils off of the scalp so that we can get a clear connection. I like using my hands. I'm a hands-on individual, so I measure the location just like that graph we had, or the chart. I put the cleaning agent on. Oops. The electrode, it just has this conductive paste on it. And place it right on the head. And that's the location that we want to train. Now I also have two other cords that I need to utilize because this is electrical activity. I wish they would have named it a little differently, but we have the ground for the electrical activity. Now, all the electricity is going to the amplifier and to this. There is nothing being sent to him, so there is no sort of electrical risk by any means. But these go on the ears to improve connectivity. Then I plug Corey in. Let's do it. And I'm going to give a little more visual with that. So as we see here, this is Corey's raw EEG, the raw brain signals that are coming through. We can break those brain signals up into different ranges, different bands. Theta, beta, high beta here. I actually have theta, low beta, kind of cut off the screen, and beta being trained. So as you can see, we want, these are actually inhibit bands. We want these brain waves to decrease. This is a reward band. We want this to come up. This is what he's producing in the theta range, 9.5, 10, and as I'm talking, it's going to adjust. I want it to stay below 11.9. I also want this beta band. He's producing 6.8. I want it below 11.7. He's producing about 5 hertz worth of beta. I want it to be above 3.2. As he meets all of that criteria, I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a beep that's occurring. A little faint beep that you can hear right now. That beep is a reward. It serves as a reward to the brain. They had individuals hooked up to an fMRI, and as they heard these reward signals, the reward network of your brain is firing each time. It's the same thing again that goes on when your phone goes ping, your brain lights up, reward. Corey would be looking, if we were training, he would be looking at this screen and there would be a game or a video that he would be watching. That would be providing him his feedback. So as he meets this criteria, there's a beep and the gameplay works. As Corey shifts outside of these ranges, the rewarding beep stops, the gameplay stops, and the brain goes, where is my reward? And it starts shifting. And it learns nothing, nothing, beep, 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 beep. Oh, I need to do this. After the brain accesses that and learns how to do that, it turns into muscle memory. We want to repeat. We want more. We want more reward. We want to train more, and we want to set that as our new default spot. So as you can see, I mean, there's a lot of different bands we can look at. I like these little meters here because it's very visual while I'm training someone. But ultimately, all Corey would need to do is sit back, relax, and watch a screen and let the brain react to the information that he's getting. I've trained as young as 3 years old, and I just tell the parent, try to keep the kid still and point them at the screen. Open your eyes, open your ears, and your brain will make those changes. So I don't want steam to start coming out of Corey's ears as I'm not monitoring this. So I will unhook him, which is an easy process. I take it off, rubbing alcohol, because we don't want to mess up his beautiful hair. Oh, thank you. We clean that. And clean his ears. And it's as easy as that to hook up and unhook. Last piece I want to show is something that's pretty cool. We've started doing here at Grey Wolf and offering, which is remote neurofeedback. The ability to do this on your time, when you're available, not necessarily having to do it clinically in office. And this very Star Trek looking device is the main basis. It's the amplifier. There are, you can see, if I can hold it up, little sensors in here that's picking up brainwave activity. You put it on, you open the app in your phone. This is essentially what Kirk Cousins was doing. We also have the ability to really personalize it with an electrode that plugs into the back. I can use this as everything else and put this on the location that needs to be trained. This is a very important part of the process because athletes are busy, working professionals are busy, students are busy. Coming in for multiple sessions a week might not be on the agenda. It's just, there's not the ability to do it. I'm working with first responders, I'm working with athletes, busy schedules. So being able to pick this up and utilize it when you have free time, it's a game changer for the field of neurofeedback. Now, I also love the implementation from the aspect of I can get a pregame routine with this that gets me in the right mind frame before I step on the field. Or I had a terrible game. How do I move past that? I can train. The first responder, maybe the firefighter that goes on a bad call. Lots of trauma can come via those calls. To go back and hook up and train immediately reduces the possibility of long-term PTSD from that incident. There is multiple studies that have talked about why animals do not have PTSD. Well, if a car clips a dog and they fall to the side, they tend to get up and shake. Animals shake. And they say that a lot of research is indicating that shake keeps that memory from embedding itself into our body. Because memories are not just in our mind. There's a lot of research coming out that memories are throughout the body. This is our shake. This is our get past it. It's not just for sports though. I wish I would have had this when I was in school, before an exam. I used to get test anxiety because I was trying so hard. I needed to go to bed earlier, I needed to get better rest, and I needed to trust what I had studied. This would be a game changer. I did a lot of neurofeedback before I went to grad school, and it was night and day difference between my studies for grad school and my undergrad. I went to bed earlier. I didn't stay up with like 3 pots of coffee all night, trying to cram. I did what I needed. I went to bed. I woke up and trusted. The anxiety was gone. So ultimately, that's it in kind of a nutshell with neurofeedback. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I am happy to answer them, whether it's here, whether it's later, and how it might be beneficial or anything that's clarifying. Yeah. Can you overdo it? So the question, can you overdo it? Yeah, you can. I usually recommend that people train every other day at the most. Put a day in between, let the brain consolidate what it's learned, start to implement it, and train again. Now that said, I was an overzealous parent before school started and really wanted to give my son like this nice boost before his first day of school. Not thinking about the anxieties before school. And I trained him. A couple hours later, I recognized he's anxious. And he was telling me, I've got a lot of thoughts. I'm not feeling comfortable. I said, I can't send him to school like this. So I said, sit back down. Let's do a quick calming training. I did that calming training, 10 minutes worth. I was like, how are you feeling? And my son's, he's 11. He goes, the whispers are gone. I was like, okay, the whispers are gone. You feel good. He was light. He went upstairs to his room and fell right asleep. So you can do it with more frequency than what I would say do on a regular basis in those situations where you really need to intervene. But yeah, you can absolutely overdo it. I look at it as up front, there tends to be a lot more work. When I first started doing neurofeedback, I was hitting it every other day. And I got gross change, a ton of change. Nowadays, about every 6 months I train, I give myself a little boost, maybe a couple sessions. And the beautiful thing about this is it's like riding a bike. I've had people, COVID was a huge test of this for me, where I had people that I'd seen 5-10 years before that called me up and were like, I'm anxious, I need to come in. Well, yeah, environment has changed. You don't know if you're ever gonna leave your house again. You know, this is at the peak. They would come in, immediately they would respond. Their brain picked up like riding a bike. It was just right back on it, beep, 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 knew what to do. Usually it was 1 to 3 sessions with the people that I saw, and they were like, I'm good, I'll call you if I need you. And in that situation, no news is good news. I don't hear from them, they're doing a lot better. So yeah, it's a good question. You can absolutely overdo it.
What would it look like for somebody utilizing that
At home?
very similar to regular session?
You mean like if you were using the mind lift? So if someone's utilizing the mind lift, it's still clinically driven. I have a dashboard that I look at. I set the parameters. What I like to do is an in-house brain map to get everything going. I take that information. I can give questionnaires through this, and you can do that. We put everything together. I design a program, which then through your app, you can literally just take the device, put it on, open the app on your phone or iPad, and you can train. And it's pulled up. I've set the parameters. If there's things that need to be changed, say initially we were talking about anxiety and depression, and then those are doing better, and it's like, wait a minute, I really want to improve my focus or something like that. It's as easy as sending a message to me, hey, I want to focus on focus, and I make some adjustments on the dashboard. Boom, it's right there on your app. So it's still clinically driven completely. Good question.
To piggyback off that, what we're developing in-house is that we're developing an internal inventory to provide feedback and provide information on the client. And then what he does is clinically he'll go through the initial brain map, develop the program, goes home, utilizes that per month, second per month, we make adjustments.
Yep.
So it's super intuitive, super easy. The days of having to go into an office and having to sit there multiple times a month.
Yeah, it's not necessary. We can do it other ways, but we also have that ability to be in office. And I do have some people that do remote, and they say, can I come in once a month and just do an in-person training? Absolutely. We can do it that way. But you still have all this flexibility to be able to train how you want. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
This may be a silly question.
There's no silly
My
questions.
mind is always racing. So when you talk about a quiet mind, it's probably the opposite of that. Correct? I mean,
Yes.
how do you define a quiet mind?
So
Lots of training.
lots of training.
I don't think I've
Just
ever
good.
heard one.
Just good.
So when I talked about my experience when I first got hooked up, and the individual hooks me up and he goes, do you think a lot? Yeah, who doesn't? And he's like, well, not everyone. I'm like, you're kidding me. Not everyone is constantly like spinning in their head. No, as a matter of fact, there's a lot of people that don't even think in words. I was like, I can't even fathom what that is, right? There's a couple different trainings I like for that. One is I kind of come to this emotional part that tends to correlate with symptoms of anxiety. And I feel like this turns down the volume. So it's not just blaring at you, all of that self-talk. And there's a spot up here that tends to really correlate with like OCD, where that can stop stuck thinking. So I can like change the channel basically and think about something different. And you put those two pieces together, I've done it with myself. I have control. There's also the frontal control piece where I go, oh, wait a minute, I'm thinking about that and I don't want to think about that right now. And then I have a visualization where I take that thought, I put it in a banker box. I used to work in a law firm, so that's why I think banker box. Put it in there, put the lid on top, the CEO in my head files it. I can access it. I'm not sitting here acting like, oh, I don't remember any of that. No, I remember it. I just choose not to think about it at this moment. And when I melted into that chair, it was because all that thought, all that rumination went away. I don't think I had ever in my entire life before that moment had a quiet mind. I didn't know what that was like, but I loved it and I wanted more. But one weird thing that I recognized was at one point I trained myself too quiet and too calm, which I know might be like, what is that? But I found myself on a Tuesday afternoon sitting on a couch streaming shows while I was at grad school. I was like, I have all this work to do. What am I doing? I didn't have that voice. And there's a good amount of anxiety and then there's too much. I was unmotivated because of it. So in that moment, I realized I need to amp everything up a little bit. I still like accessing that thinking mind, that voice in my head. It helps me think through problems and stuff. But when I'm home at the end of the day and I'm playing with my kids or I'm trying to watch a show with my wife or something like that, I don't want that. And neurofeedback gives incredible control and flexibility, where me and my colleagues talk a lot about with that flexibility. It's being able to shift from sleep to wake, work to play, and being able to have your brain adjust based off where we want to be in those situations. So yeah, it probably seems really unfathomable to like quiet the mind and just, well, what do? You just sit there and just look? But it can be, with some individuals, it can be almost instantaneous, like with myself, where it just went quiet. Feels good, to be honest.
So I have trouble sleeping.
Uh-huh.
My head stops.
So head hits the pillow, thoughts turn on.
So
Yes. Yes. In the short term. But yes, there is, I hear it quite a bit. I have a hard time falling asleep because my head hits the pillow, my thoughts turn on. Well, neurofeedback is one of those pieces that can really help with not having that trigger in that moment, having the more quiet mind. And even if there are moments of, it was a stressful day and I laid down and my mind's racing, when I do in-person sessions, and I really do combine the counseling with neurofeedback when it's needed, sometimes we talk about behavioral modifications. So maybe like sleep hygiene, like what is our sleep routine to set us up? I had always been kind of a night owl, and I got 2 young kids and work and all this stuff. I gave up finally. I was like, I got to go to bed early. But I was never tired at 10:30, 11 o'clock. So what I started doing was getting this sleep routine down where I go, I change my clothes, I brush my teeth, I go up to my kids' room and check on them. And what I notice is I might not be tired when I go into my room, but as soon as I start brushing my teeth, I start yawning. My body is preparing for sleep. I go and lay down, my mind knows what to do in sleep at this point in time, and it quiets. And I fall right asleep. For someone that's always been a heavy thinker and had to play tons of sports and wear myself out to sleep, it's not as much of an issue. Yeah, it's a problem a lot of people deal with, to be honest. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you mentioned like how it helps with like the lows and like anxiety and stuff.
Mhm.
Does it affect the highs at all too?
Yeah. Any specific way you're thinking about?
No, just highs in general, like just I don't know.
Like when you say highs though, like excitement.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So in some situations, like, well, I've worked with a large neurodiverse population, and sometimes you see excitement and it's like bustling out, right? You might get stim and those types of things and different behaviors. And a lot of times by training that and regulating that, we can keep it honed in. Or even from an athletic perspective, not going full Tatis on it, right? Like, I'm so excited, I have done all this, in trying to stay more composed and everything. It allows us to not be hitting these extreme highs, these extreme lows. And that's part of that neuroregulation, where we kind of stay in this stable spot. One of the biggest, my daughter's a pitcher, and one of the things I'm teaching her, I mean, she's 10U, so she's learning, but I will pause games sometimes when a pitcher has given up a huge hit or a pitcher has shut down the side. And I pause it on their face and I go, what did he just do? I don't know. I have no idea. I can't tell exactly. You can't tell if he's having the best game of his life or the worst game of his life because he's not showing you anything. And I try to give her the insight from a catcher. When I saw someone slam a bat or a helmet or they're angry, I was like, you're done. I got you. I mean, the next pitch is going to buzz your tower and we're going to throw you 3 curveballs and you're done because you're in your head. Don't be that person is what I keep telling her. Like, don't give them anything. And I think that's where the highs and lows, we just want to have that kind of neutral feel, that neutral look. And that also helps us stay in the zone, right? If we're patting ourselves on the back too much or we're beating ourselves up, we're in our mind. If we're just going out there and leaning on all that physical training we've done and not even thinking about it, that's flow state, that's zone, that's performance, that's presence, that's quality of life, that's living. Yeah. Anyone else? Well, I would just extend the aspect that if there's any questions that come up, because I know this is something that can kind of resonate, and on the back end, there can be questions, there can be thoughts, curiosity, why didn't I think of this? Message, get a hold of me. Graham and Corey know how to get a hold of me. I'm happy to share my contact information and everything. I answer these questions a lot. One thing about neurofeedback is it was developed years ago. The 40s is when it was 1940. I have to say 19 now, but like in the 40s, it was really kind of figured out. The 60s, there was some evidence that started to come about. But we didn't have technology that really brought it to the forefront to what it is nowadays. When you had a computer that was the size of this room, it's not processing that information super quickly. But I use a gaming laptop. I see information now, in the present, real time. And it's taken neurofeedback to what the potential was once seen in the 40s and 60s. Now we've reached that. And yeah, so absolutely.
You talked about the different lobes of the brain being kind of out of sync and stuff.
Yeah.
When we're born, are they all in sync? Like, how do they get out of sync?
It's a really good question. You know, if you think about a newborn, a child, we have all this activity happening. And on a daily basis, what we're doing is creating new neuronal connections throughout the brain and pruning away the ones that we're not utilizing. And the brain is constantly changing and adapting and new skills. I start walking, the motor spot now connecting. And well, I don't use this part, so we prune that, There's this constant change. So it's more about like the buildup as a child, but the brain's not necessarily regulated at that point in time. It's still learning how to even operate, let alone how to sustain over a period of time. And that's one reason why, you know, you say, hey, look at me to a little baby, and they look, and then they look away, and they're all over the place. Well, they're unable to sustain that because there isn't that regulation. And through life, a lot of things do start to regulate and stabilize in our brain. They do. And, you know, 90%, 95% of what we want to fall into place, the brain figures out and becomes fairly regulated. But there's this other stuff that just doesn't. And I would say probably, you know, in that same 90 to 95% range of people that I see that I hook up the first time, their brain is dysregulated. Interestingly enough, the population that I see that has more brain regulation than any other population from the first session on is athletes. And the reason why is because I teach psych courses and I teach a 3-brain system. We have the brain, we have the heart, we have the gut. Diet, exercise, and then this is the missing link when it comes to the brain. But if they're exercising and they have a good diet, they have a lot of coherence in their body already, which is lending itself to the brain. If they are unable to maintain regulation, mental brain regulation, a lot of times it's a very quick onboarding process to get to that point. The biggest issues I see with neurofeedback, the biggest impedance toward benefit and toward noticing results is gut issues. I've had 2 people, I've been doing this since 2007. I've had 2 people that did not respond. One had strep in the gut, and the mom was like, I don't know how you knew that. How did you know there was strep in the gut? I said, I didn't know it was strep, but I knew something was impeding based off what was happening session to session. The other one, I threw the kitchen sink at this person. We trained for 45 minutes. I did everything. I finish and I go, how do you feel? He goes, I don't notice anything. So I'm baffled. Started reviewing some things with him. It turns out when we got to diet, I said, do you eat meat? Do you get protein? Yes, I do. Veggies, fruit? No. Okay. Well, what else do you eat besides meat? Meat. I was like, okay, so like dinner. Oh, I'll get like 2 steaks. And I'm like, with nothing. Oh, we have a gut issue. I need to refer you to a functional medicine doctor at this point in time because that's the impedance. So it's usually just, you know, as we have more coherence between the 3, that whole body system is working in the right direction. Yeah, that's one major reason why this action, the gym out here, me back there doing neurofeedback in my hole is, it's a benefit. They work off each other. They feed off each other. They improve each other. Any other questions?
I got one.
Yeah.
So the goal of this whole deal, trying to cross
Yeah.
I'm an older guy. Trying to quiet the mind.
Not always. Not always. It's very individualized. Now, with a lot of peak performance, there is an element of quieting the mind. And I think some of that is who gets into sports, who gets into athletics, and it's people that are kind of go-getters and want to achieve and stuff. And a lot of times there is a lot of activity. So I kind of framed it around that. I have a lot of people that they need activation. So someone, say with depression, and they're very lethargic,
Sure.
they need some activation. Correct.
So let's not say it's quiet mind, it's balance.
It's balance.
It's more balance across what you're doing, how you're thinking.
Correct. Correct.
So how do you, there's no way to balance it yourself? I'm just thinking out loud.
No, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
How can you achieve balance yourself by turning off? I know you said your mind. My mind is running a lot. But when I go to bed at night, I kind of turn off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Quiet things down and take 5 or 6 deep breaths and turn it off.
See what you are doing there?
How can you do it and I can't?
And that's the individuality, which is why I individualize these programs. I don't just go cookie cutter with every person. And there are some therapists that just train to a norm. I try to individualize it because we do see differences with the same activities. Now, taking deep breaths, you know, if you're inhaling through your nose and taking a deep breath and exhaling, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system by doing that, which is calming all the organs in your body, including your brain.
Breath.
Uh-huh. Oh, no.
But breath is a big thing. And one of the things I'm actually reading is what calm.
It's huge.
Controls and a lot of
100%. It does.
It's a
Mm-hmm. And when I do neurofeedback with individuals that I do some heart rate variability. I do a lot of times, given the individual and the situation, obviously, but like I want them to learn the conscious ways that they can affect what they want to affect to go along with the more subconscious neurofeedback training. And when you put the two of those together, that's where the explosion occurs. That's where it can really benefit. Yeah, you're 100% correct. There are things that can be done outside of this, but
you're more looking for balance.
Correct.
For balance across. You're not way up here, not way down here. You're in a balanced situation instead of being
100%. As opposed to using breath work to get myself out of a depressive state, what if my brain just never goes there?
Right.
Yeah.
There, folks down here need that. There's folks up here need to come down here.
Correct.
And that's the balance.
And I get you into this range, and then I say, let's see where you and your brain want to be, as opposed to shove you here or shove you there. I say, here's the range. We've gotten out of the extremes.
You're putting together the parameters.
Correct.
You're filling the parameters. Okay, you're here and here. We need the parameters to be across here.
Mhm.
At least in a 10% differentiation.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
So another way of looking at it, you talked about at the beginning of this presentation, you talked about response and addition. Right? You have training, here's something else. Here's the thing, here's respond. Right? So you're able to isolate and to remove what messages right. So when you say things like, why can't I do it? It's because of response and addition. He has the ability through breath work, through that modality to help raise his parasympathetic nervous system to calm himself. What he does is he sets the basic parameters for your brain to never have to go there. And think about it from, we talked about the chemical aspect of it, the chemical of the brain, right? We talked about, different anti-anxiety, antidepressants. Well, we're learning a lot in studies now, these medications, these chemicals, are actually just masking the symptoms, not addressing the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
He's the root cause. So he's creating the parameters and the brain never has to go there.
Yep. It's a good way of putting it because we were talking about this earlier, and there's a study that came out recently. For all the massive amounts of antidepressants that are prescribed, there is zero correlation that depression has anything to do with chemical activity. And this new research coming out about that is, well, then what are we doing with these antidepressants? We're masking.
Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid. And I like to talk about neurofeedback compared to medication, where like medication can be very effective. I refer people to psychiatry for medication when there's safety concerns. And we need immediate differences, otherwise this person might be at risk. But medication, if it works and it's prescribed correctly, and that's some big ifs, because it doesn't always work the first time or the 10th time that with a new med. But when we medicate, it's like a light switch. Every morning we flip it on, but we wake up the next day and it's off and we have to flip it back on. Neurofeedback's more of a dimmer, where it might take a little while for us to get to that point where we're feeling great, but once that dimmer's turned on, it's on. That's the new default. That's where we start at. That's our day. We are changed. Now, we still have the same likes, the same dislikes, similar personalities. We're not changing who we are as a person. We're just changing how we respond to our environment. And we can improve that quality of life. I still love baseball this day as much as I always did. All the values in my life are the same. My friends don't notice much of a difference, except for maybe I'm a little less confrontational. And a little less confrontational, but I'm happier. I had an interaction with my daughter a couple months ago where she got activated, got angry, got upset. And I didn't take that bait and go up to her. I went the other way and I got calm. And I was able to access that despite what she was hurling at me. And she stops dead in her tracks and goes, "Why are you talking to me in that creepy voice?" And if anyone has a daughter, you might understand that. But in that moment, it threw her off because I'm not going there. And everyone you do this to takes the bait. I'm not taking it. And I wasn't reactive. It gave me this buffer between what's going on in front of me and how I want to respond, and allowed me to respond the way I want to. One of the biggest pieces.
Where you wanted to steer her.
I what?
And where you wanted to steer her.
100%.
That was your motive.
100%.
To steer her down, get her down.
Mm-hmm. And that emotional reactive piece is, I'm going to go over the top of you to tell you where to go. But that doesn't work.
No.
Then it turns into who can escalate the most. Exactly. She is a lot like me. So she gets a lot of training.
I get it. I have 2 kids. Older. Well, 3, I guess, but yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for you.
Sorry.
He's used to it. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has.
One other question.
Absolutely.
I have a friend whose husband is a pretty serious alcoholic. Is this doing anything for addiction?
Absolutely. A lot of time alcohol and other substances are utilized in self-medicating ways. So I like to give an example of if I don't have paper and pen, so I'll act it out, I guess. But like if we have a lot of really fast brainwave activity, and here's normal, 4 drinks might take us down to this normal because it's a depressant and we're feeling better. As you do neurofeedback and you're not way up here, you're starting more in this normal range, those same 4 drinks might make you tired. It's not just down to normal. So there, from a self-medicating perspective, it just doesn't have the same benefits. As a matter of fact, I work with a lot of college students, so we talk about alcohol consumption when we start training. And the one thing I always tell them is, I know you're gonna go out. You're gonna go to some parties, you're gonna go watch Jayhawks game, you're gonna go do this and that. Watch your drinking, drink water in between, because your tolerance is going to adjust. And I had one dude, this big dude, who just didn't believe me. And he always paced himself with his friends. He was bigger than them. And he comes in one session, he goes, "Oh my gosh, you were right." And he tells me, "I went out and I'm much bigger than my friends. I can always drink more and I'm fine, no issues. I blacked out." I was like, "Really?" So did we learn a lesson? Of course, the counselor side comes out at that point. But it was, he goes, "I've never had that happen." I was like, "Your tolerance is decreased because of that." Now, obviously, that's not just the main goal when it comes to like alcohol consumption and stuff like that. There's habituated behavior. As alcoholics have told me many times, I plan on not drinking, and I'm on my drive home and I'm not drinking, and then I pulled into this parking lot, I'm not drinking, and then I walk in and I'm not drinking and I'm drinking. And it's just this automatic kind of behavior that occurs. It can help us be more present in those moments. It can help us, the counseling aspect helps as well. But neurofeedback makes it, if I don't need to self-medicate this, what's the benefit I'm getting? You know, it's destroying my life at this point in time. This is the only way I can make myself feel better, but I'm not going there. I don't need to feel better. So there's some specific trainings for alcoholism. Just like there's specific trainings for PTSD, there's specific trainings for attention, OCD, depression, all of that. Yep. Yeah. All good questions. Absolutely. And I think ultimately what it comes into, like taking these questions and into this, I was focusing this more on athletic performance today, but this is a whole body quality of life element that goes into this. I can say for myself, and yes, I'm biased because I do this, but I did this. I got into this field because of how much benefit I noticed for myself. I had no psychiatric diagnosis. I had never been diagnosed with ADHD in the 80s or 90s or anything like that, but I struggled to attend. It was working 3-4 times harder than the person next to me. I had a chatty mind. I had those types of things, and this just overall improved quality of life. Yeah. Thanks, Mom. Yeah. 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 All right. Well, I appreciate everyone coming to listen and everything. And like I said, any questions, anything, let me know. I look at it where I do a lot of education with neurofeedback because the information is not out there. And again, I'm biased, but I feel like everyone would benefit from it. So if I can add any information, help someone understand it more thoroughly to make the best decision for themselves, I'm all in. So thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask the question everyone wants to, how much it cost?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
So there's a difference. There's a difference between in person and remote. In person, I charge $160 an hour, face-to-face training, counseling, an hour, whatever we do in that hour. When it comes to the remote piece, it's more affordable, especially considering how many sessions you can do. It's $400 a month, and I look at a 3-month commitment off the top to get you up and running and started and into your routine of training to be able to see the benefit. And then that's after that 3 months, it's just as long as you want to do it. If you want to keep doing it. What's cool about this device also is the Muse itself. So the whole thing is called MindLift. This device is called the Muse, and it can be used with the Muse app for like mindfulness, meditation, those types of things, and reading your brainwave activity while you're meditating to provide feedback and stuff. So it's not like once you're done with neurofeedback, that device goes in the garbage or anything. It can still be utilized for other things. So, yeah.
Trying to learn.
Oh,
I will tell
absolutely.
you guys, our goal here at Grey Wolf is to utilize this, because I look at this as a cheat code. I wish I had this when I was playing ball too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I preach mental toughness, resilience. I mean, I start with all my baseball players. And to have something that's empirical, that puts something that has empiricism with the mental strategies and skills that we're trying to teach, it's going to be a cheat code for a lot of athletes and a lot of people who work in a professional setting. I really struggled in my professional career when I left baseball because I'm a high performer. I can't shut my brain off. I got promoted every 6 months to a director position, but I was always high stress, under the gun, attempting to do better than I did the previous day. And I found myself struggling with a lot of health issues as a result. I wish I would have had something like this. And I think in the next 10 years, brain training will be the singular biggest thing across the world. And we're a little bit ahead of the gun right now, which still has a little bit of woo-woo to it because people, there's early adopters and there's the mass adoption, and then it becomes very, very centered in our society. I honestly think that this is the next step in terms of training and utilize this and leverage this technology and train their brains along with their bodies, their nutrition, and their food too. It's going to be a game changer. You're going to see a lot of people do this stuff.
How much of this is around in the area today
There's
compared to?
It's starting to grow. So my uncle actually was the first neurofeedback provider in the area. There was a couple that had tried over the years and they had some issues. Again, I think some of it was the technology at that point in time and some of that was not fully understanding the process. He was a PhD. I learned under him how to do this. I think at this point, I'm the second. I think I've been doing it the second longest of anyone in the area. In the last, I'd say 5 years, I've seen several people pop up that have started utilizing it. There's not enough providers for people that could utilize it. It's gaining in popularity tremendously though, because I think as the science catches up and there's more empirical data because we're able to do sham neurofeedback for a control group and stuff like that, the validity is increasing, which means more people to it, not to mention just the word of mouth. I have a lot of therapists that refer to me when they hit a plateau in therapy with someone, because doing neurofeedback can make you more comfortable, more relaxed, lower your defenses, and more stuff can come out. So as those therapists have seen some of that, some of them have gone and learned how to do it themselves.
Sure.
So right now it's still, we'll say with the people that have been doing it for a while that have proven competency, there's usually wait lists. I know in my clinical practice, I just worked my way through a lot of the wait lists this summer, but I had about a 6 to 9 month wait list. At this point in time, I'm trying to shed some of that to do more of it over here at Grey Wolf and refer to colleagues and stuff like that. Ultimately, I don't know anyone that does it in the area that has the athletic insight. So being able to put those two pieces together, I think that's where my passion is, which is why I want to do it here. Yep.
We've got some more pros that we're working with right now, we're talking to. We're going to eventually, hopefully the goal is to have a wearable pulse biphasic movement, and we can identify certain sections. If we want to go 9-hole slider, we want to make our brainwaves before that's and be able to bring the brainwaves to be able access to it to be able to execute that.
And you know what's really cool to piggyback off that is if you look at the research for mental performance, you don't train for the moment you're performing. You train for the 7 seconds leading up to it. And what is going through that individual's mind for those 7 seconds? You're preparing.
Before.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Brookridge.
Mm-hmm.
Prior preparation prevents poor performance.
100%. You know, and again, you get into that visualization piece that I brought up at the beginning. Like, if your mind's quiet as you step into the plate or you're standing at the free throw line or whatever it is, you're starting to visualize yourself do what you're about to do with a quiet mind, as opposed to word barrage. And now I'm stressed. So it puts you in the right spot in those 7 seconds. Most of the research has been done with archery, shooting, and golf, because you're still right before performance.
And you're individual.
And you're individual.
It's not a group session. It's individual.
Correct. Yeah. It's harder to get, the quarterback, get accurate readings as they're running around and they get hit and these types of things happen. But our technology is getting there. We're starting to get ambulatory EEG stuff and, more ambulatory than what I have, like helmets that you can put on and caps to actually hold it on. And that's where I think Graham's kind of referring to, where we can see what's going through that pitcher's mind in that 7 seconds leading up to a slider in the 9-hole, right? And
Putting, hitting, target sports.
yep. Yeah. In grad school, actually headed up the neurophysiology lab where we were doing the yips in golf. And we were looking at, we had EEG set up, we had EMG for muscle tension, and we were looking at a golfer from the golf team versus someone who golfs recreationally versus someone who's never golfed before. And we had no one's watching, a couple people are watching, a gallery is watching, and now every putt you make, the gallery gets $1. Every one you lose, the gallery pays me $1. So like we just up the intensity. And what we could see is the people with more experience had more nerves when there was more on the line. So the golfers on the golf team, when there's a gallery around them and they know every putt they miss, everyone has to pay $1, that brainwave activity increased. They were like, I better make this. I'm a golfer. Whereas the people that had never golfed before are like, here. Right. So it's interesting to see. It's almost like the better you are, the more you know, and the more you know of the possible pitfalls, the more blocks are in the way. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, right?
We've learned the psychology of competence brings anxiety.
Yeah. Yep.
When you're unaware of what you're doing, you just go out there. It's like my first time playing basketball in a couple of years. I go out there and I'm training every shot that I'm shooting up, so I just don't care. I haven't played in a while. Now I pick up basketball for the next 2 months. I'm aware of my last game, my last session. Now I'm trying to think about it.
Between your ears.
Yeah,
Yep.
100%.
100% between the ears. That's the biggest piece. Right on. Right on. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. All right.